Okay, well, thank you for the lovely mandala once again, and welcome everyone. So, yeah, let's just get started in the usual way by first adjusting our motivation, thinking that the purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings, and in order that I may be able to benefit sentient beings in the best way, I myself must first achieve the state of complete enlightenment. Then only then will I have all of the skills, qualities, and knowledge to guide sentient beings most effectively from the oceans of samsaric suffering to the state of enlightenment. Therefore, I need to learn about all the stages of training in the path towards enlightenment. And therefore, I'm going to take part in this lecture today. Okay. And then continuing with the refuge and bodhicitta. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay. So now oops. Yeah, we'll jump right into it. Yeah. Okay, so here we are, session 5. And yeah, I'm not sure you noticed, but I'm actually still up here in Dharamsala. So a bit unfortunate. Maybe some of you noticed I was coughing last week. Well, it turns out I had COVID, which I didn't know until the day before I was supposed to leave. So I canceled all my plans. Luckily, I am recovered, and so I'm going to try again to leave tomorrow. But that means I've had an extra week up here in Dharamsala. And last week, there was also quite a few technical difficulties because I ran out of data and all that. But by now, I have hopefully remedied that. So thank you all for your patience. So let's just jump in. And as we usually do, I try to find a quotation that we can sort of further bolster our motivation. And this one, I think we might have seen before when we were talking about precious human rebirth. But anyway, yeah. Have any of you really received the full-fledged realization of precious human rebirth? Then we still need to reflect on these, right? So here, Arya Sutta says, those who have attained a human life rich in virtues through a collection of merit over innumerable eons, and who then, due to confusion in this life, fail to accumulate even the slightest treasure of merit, will in future lifetimes enter the house of unbearable sorrow. So as we mentioned many times, right, this human life, right, is very difficult to obtain because the causes to achieve such a human rebirth are also difficult to obtain. So here, Arya Sutta is saying that, this human life that we have has been achieved through this collection of merit through innumerable eons. Yeah. So as Lama Tsongkhapa also says in another one of his texts, if you knew how difficult it was to acquire, living the average life would be impossible. Mm? So then, having attained this hard-fought human rebirth, one with such difficulty, then if we, due to confusion, don't make best use of it by accumulating merit, then in the future lifetimes we'll enter the house of unbearable sorrow. Means, well, suffering in the lower realms. Then, like the traders who go to a land of jewels and return home empty-handed. So this is a kind of, in the ancient literature, right there, these wish-fulfilling jewels we talked about, that are kind of like Aladdin's lamp. When you acquire one, then you can get any material thing that one wishes for, right? And then it is said that way off in the sea, right, there are islands that have these wish-fulfilling jewels. So, people would then go on these explorations to find such things, right? So you can imagine then a trader who goes on one of these expeditions and actually finds the mythical land of wish-fulfilling jewels, and then doesn't bring any back and returns home empty-handed, right? What a great loss that would be. So similarly, if we, having attained this human rebirth, then without the paths of the 10 karmic paths of the 10 virtues, then we will not obtain a human life again. So in that sense, we'll be, returning or going on empty-handed from this human life. And then, how can there be happiness without a human life? Without happiness, there is only suffering. So probably here, happiness, well, in certain contexts, right, happiness is just talking about like the happiness of this life. Here, I think it would mean a happy rebirth, means rebirth in the lower realm, right? And so how can we achieve a good rebirth in our next life without having a human life? Because it is only with this human life that is able to differentiate between right and wrong that we are able to, accumulate virtue. And then without a happy life of the human, where we're able to practice Dharma, then there's only suffering. So here we can think of the suffering of, the lower realms, right? So if once we are born in the lower realms, then it's very difficult to get out, right? And I think we can also think more generally about the general sufferings of samsara. So without the basis of a precious human rebirth, then there's no way to practice Dharma, no way to achieve liberation and enlightenment, and therefore only more suffering in the future in samsara. Okay? Therefore, right, you've only deceived yourself before going into the next life. There's nothing more confused than this. Yeah. Okay. So, like that. All right. So now we're going through the middle scope of the Lam Rim, and in last class, we had sort of set the context. We had gone through all of this, right? Mental training, and then reflection on suffering and its origin. We've already gone through reflection on the truth of suffering. We talked about the faults of a cyclic existence, and then we were reflecting on the process of cyclic existence in terms of its origin. So in that, there are these four further outlines, and I think in last session we got through the first three, right? Identifying the afflictions, talked about that. Order in which the afflictions arise, causes of the afflictions, and then we had a few difficulties, internet, and so forth, and we didn't get to the faults of the afflictions, right? So that's what we're doing here. All right. So this is a quotation from Lama Tsongkhapa and Lamrim Chenmo, and in that, Lama Tsongkhapa says, when an affliction arises, at first it completely afflicts the mind. Okay. So remember, we talked about the definition of the affliction, something which, when it arises, it disturbs the mind, right? So no peace. And then causing you to err, right, with regard to what you're observing. So this is also what we had talked about, this factor of the afflictions, sort of, attachment, exaggerating the good qualities of an object, anger, exaggerating the bad qualities of an object, right? So we're engaging with the object in a distorted way, okay? Reinforcing your latent proclivities. Okay, so this is what we had mentioned as being the seeds, right? The seeds for the afflictions. So remember, we were saying through habituation with the afflictions, they then cause the afflictions to arise again and more strongly in the future, right? So yeah, by every time the afflictions arise, it sets up the propensity for them to arise again, okay? Thus causing the same affliction to recur. It may harm you, others, or both, okay? So how can it harm us? Well, then, as Shantideva mentions in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, you can think of people who are very heartbroken, love-stricken, who, then cause physical harm to their own bodies, right? But otherwise you can think when you have afflictions and it's just that itself disturbs the mind and causes harm for you, right? Forgetting about the consequences of future lives, okay? Then it may harm you, others, of course, then when we are motivated by afflictions, we also will cause harm to others, or both, and then it leads to misdeeds in this life that we can see, the misdeeds of body, speech, right? And it leads to misdeeds in this life, in future lives, or in both, right? Because as we had mentioned, with the action of karma, then we also have the fruition in terms of experience, in terms of future action, right? So if we get angry, when we get angry, we start to kill, then we'll have this liking towards killing. So then also in future lives, we'll have the anger, right? The propensity for anger and the propensity for killing. Okay? Then it creates experiences of pain and anguish, as well as the sufferings of birth and the like. Okay. Well, yeah, either through the ripening of the negative karma that we accumulate due to our afflictions, and then more generally, the sufferings of birth, and the like. Those are, we can think of the general sufferings of samsara, because it is the afflictions that fuel this process of samsara. It takes you far from nirvana, right? So the opposite of samsara, nirvana, the liberation from samsara. So since the afflictions are the fuel that motivates samsara, then the more fuel we add to that fire, the farther we are from its opposite, or it's being liberated from it. Then your virtue is destroyed and your resources are depleted. So we mentioned how, anger, wrong view, some of these other afflictions destroy our virtue, and then our resources are depleted. Well, yeah, we can think, um, well, we can think when we, let the afflictions run rampant. I think of people with, addiction to different kinds of drugs or alcohol, then they'll completely spend all their money and resources on getting those. Mm. And then in society, you feel apprehensive, joyless, and devoid of confidence, while your notoriety spreads in all directions. Yes, it can happen, right? It can happen. So, taken to an extreme, we see, people fall from grace when their afflictions are not sort of held in check. And then excellent persons such as teachers and protectors rebuke you. You die with regret, your aims are unfulfilled, and after death, you're reborn in a miserable realm. Mm. Yeah. So you see, sometimes here, okay, I'll talk about that later. There's another quotation from Shantideva here that's in the same section, and this we actually referred to last week. Okay, so enemies such as hatred and craving have neither feet nor hands, are neither brave nor intelligent. How then have they enslaved me? When they dwell within my mind, they are pleased to do me harm. They're not to be endured without anger. Remember, we're talking about whether anger towards the afflictions is an affliction. Tolerance of them is ridiculous. Even if all the deities and demigods should rise up as my enemies, they cannot lead me or force me into the fires of unrelenting hell. Why is that? Because the cause of rebirth in the unrelenting hell is found within our own mind, our own karma and afflictions, negative karma, right? So whatever enemies try to approach us, right, they can't force us to do negative actions, right? Mm. But this powerful enemy in the afflictions casts me in an instant into fire so hot that if they met even Mount Meru, okay, the kind of mythical huge mountain at the center of the universe in the kind of ancient Indian cosmology, right? Not even ashes would remain. So how's that, right? The afflictions cast me into in an instant into fire so hot. It means based on the afflictions, if we don't apply the antidotes and instead act them out, then in one instant we can create the negative karma that will then have us reborn in this unrelenting hell, where it is said the fires are so much hotter than even the lava or any kind of fire that we have in this world. So the enemy that is my afflictions has lasted a long time without beginning or end. Yep. As long as we've been in samsara, which is also without beginning, we've been under the control of these afflictions. And no other enemy has the power to last for such a long time. Given appropriate service and attention, everyone helps you and makes you happy. But if you serve your afflictions, they only inflict further suffering. Okay. So, we understand the faults of the afflictions. So I think here, yeah, in terms of our own practice, Oh, I think there's, okay, actually, one more slide, then I'll talk. Okay, this is one more passage from Liberation, sorry, Lamrim Chenmo. Oops. Okay, so this is quoted in Lamrim Chenmo, Geshe Gompowa, Kanaba Geshe. Yeah. So he's kind of summarizing. All right, so in this section, the false afflictions, actually, this first passage here, that Lam Tsongkhapa, he is basically paraphrasing this passage in the Ornament from Mahayana Sutras by Maitreya. Okay. Anyway, Gombawa says, to eliminate afflictions, you must know the affliction's faults, their characteristics, their remedies, and the causes for their arising. After you've recognized their faults, regard them as defective and consider them enemies. If you do not recognize their faults, you will not understand their enemies. Therefore, it is said that you should reflect on this, following what is said in the Ornament from Mahayana Sutras and engaging in the Bodhisattva's deeds. Okay? So this passage, this is basically Lam Tsongkhapa is paraphrasing the stanza from Ornament of Mahayana Sutras and then engaging in Bodhisattva deeds. That's this passage here from Bodhisattva Charyavatara, right? So that's why I wanted to go through both of those kind of passages following Gombawa's advice here. Okay, then he says, study Vasubandhu and Asanga's text on knowledge. Okay, so Vasubandhu, he wrote the Abhidharma Kosha, and Asanga, he quoted him several times here. Also, so they Asanga's text, it forms a kind of higher Abhidharma, the Abhidharma system of the Mahayana. Vasubandhu is the kind of Abhidharma system of the lower tenets. Okay, and in there, it explains the characteristics of the afflictions. Okay, so at the least, study Vasubandhu's explanation of the fire aggregates. Once you know the root and secondary afflictions, then when any attachment, hostility, or such arises in your mind stream, you can identify it thinking, this is that, right? So this is anger, now it has arisen, and then fight the affliction. Okay? All right. So now I'll say what I wanted to say. So I think on a practical level for us, right? Many of you, I think, have practiced mindfulness meditation, right? We sit down, try to keep our mind focused on the breath or body sensations, right? Then it's a very good practice, right? But actually, when we talk about the practice of mindfulness, there is what is called the four close placements of mindfulness, right? Which, sometimes translated as four foundations of mindfulness. So we have the mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of phenomena, right? So in one sense, when we are trying to practice shamatha, then we just hold our mind's focus on, say, the breath, and try to not let it waver. But there is another kind of flavor of mindfulness practice that has also become very popular, where we try to have this non-judgmental awareness, right? So we're aware of whatever arises in the mind, but then viewing it like an impartial sort of witness. And even if there's a pleasant thought, a pleasant sensation, then no clinging. If there's an unpleasant thought or sensation, no aversion. And we just sort of remain in this equanimous state, right? Not letting these feelings of pleasant or unpleasant move the mind. Yes? You know this practice? So here, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings. Here, feeling isn't, oh, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad. It's just the feeling of pleasant sensation, unpleasant sensation, right? And this is my opinion. You see, we're saying when there's a pleasant feeling that arises, we have attachment. When there's an unpleasant feeling that arises, we have aversion, right? And this process is, very natural, very ingrained in us, right? So being able to have this ability where, although there's pleasant feeling, then not just let the attachment kind of run wild, not let it get so strong. And similarly, when there's aversion, not to have such a strong reactive force of aversion, and instead just, being a little bit separation from ourselves and these pleasant, unpleasant feelings, then it allows us to kind of counteract the this habitual tendency to get so overwhelmed, right, by these feelings of pleasant and unpleasant, right? Okay, that's one. Then, when we start to talk about mindfulness of the mind, then even when these afflictions arise, this is what is being described here. As soon as these afflictions arise, we know, okay, this is that. Okay, it means, oh, now anger has arisen, now attachment has arisen, now pride has arisen, right? Right. And so, actually, in the Vipassana system taught by the great Burmese, late great Burmese master Mahasi Sayadaw, right? Then they'll actually go so far as, to do this mental labeling process, right? That is a thought. Oh, that is anger. That is a pain. That is pleasant. That is heat, right? And then in that process, right? Then we know there's attachment. We know when there's hostility, so forth. But just by kind of, labeling and witnessing it, we can sort of put a stop to the normal process, which is when there is attachment, letting it kind of get stronger, letting it grow unabated, and then we act on it. Okay? So, you see, in that way, this practice of vipassana, this practice of mindfulness in itself, can become a way of fighting the afflictions, right? Otherwise, you see, Lama Zopa Rinpoche often says, kind of the mere mindfulness of knowing, like, what's going on, right? Then Rinpoche jokes, then if we just have that, but actually leave it at that, then we can say, okay, oh, now I'm angry. Now I want to, kill this person. Now I'm killing the person, right? And so forth, right? So just kind of knowing what's going on is, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient, right? Okay. Now, sometimes, right, just to recognize the affliction, right, and say, okay, now there's anger in my mind, it can be helpful because even that can help sort of limit the conceptual overlay, right? I think we mentioned here or another context, when we talk about analytic meditation, right? when we analyze an object and then we try to come up with a certain conclusion, hold our mind in that conclusion, right? I think we mentioned before, we have been doing this process in relation to our afflictions, right? So when there's a unpleasant event or someone harms us in some way, we then think, oh, they did this, and they did that. I can't believe they did that. Oh man. Anger. Okay, and then we make a decision, oh, when I see them again, I'm really going to tell them off, right? So that process, thinking, all the reasons why we should be angry, why we're justified in being angry, right? Then that's a kind of meditation, as it were, on anger. And then we make a decision. Therefore, next time I see them, I'm going to harm them. Okay. So to stop that process, right? Another kind of general way that we can use our four foundations of mindfulness practice, right, is then to kind of switch, rather than thinking about all the reasons why we're justified in being angry. Then one helpful kind of solution, or we could say tactic maybe, is then to get out of the conceptual mind and then go back into the body, right? So to think, okay, there's anger. Now, where is it manifesting in the body, right? Okay, there's maybe heat in the chest, in the back of the neck. Maybe my heart is beating more quickly, right? Okay. Then, you see what I mean? Instead of letting those thoughts run wild about all the reasons why we're justified, then to get back to the body, right? Just back to the sensations, it can give us that space to, at least not add fuel to the anger through the further conceptual kind of overlay, right? Because while we're in the throes of anger, remember what Tsongkhapa was saying, right? It causes us to err with regard to what we're observing, right? So when the afflictions are already there and we're engaging the object in an unrealistic, distorted way, then the more we engage with that object, the more our, mistaken views will proliferate, right? Okay. So, yeah. Okay. What? So where were we? We're in the process of how the afflictions arise. These four outlines. We just talked about the fourth, the faults of the afflictions. Okay. So now, let's go back and make sure, because we have 6 lectures, right? This is already number 5. So let's see how we're doing with regard to the topics that we're supposed to cover. Okay, so where are we? This is the kind of reconfigured list according to, the order that I think is more logical. So here, we're in the middle of the cause of suffering. Oh, yes, we are. And now we talk about the 6 root delusions. And then now we just talk about recognizing and dealing with the delusions. So actually, as we, in the last session, talked about the individual characteristics and definitions of the root delusions, also, since we were going through the liberation of the palm of your hand, there were some kind of tactics for each of them. And then just now, I talked about some general ways of dealing with the delusions, right? But it probably is worth, yeah, it probably is worth, let's just kind of also review, right? Remember we were talking about these causes for the afflictions last time, right? And, well, when we talk about having an antidote to something, actually what we're talking about is um, you know, going against the causes of the afflictions, right? So it's also probably good to think about, as we try to fight the afflictions, to fight the causes of the afflictions. And unfortunately, this first one, the latent proclivity for afflictions, means the seeds of the afflictions, right? So the real antidote to that is going to be the direct wisdom realizing emptiness, right? The wisdom directly realizing emptiness. And therefore, we're a little bit far away from that. But as we mentioned, every time the affliction rises, it can come more strongly, right? So even when we apply whatever antidotes we can after they've arisen and not sort of give in to them and let them, grow like wildfire, then it at least sort of stays contained, right? And at least won't get stronger. And then, by the time, over a long period of time, then our, wisdom can sort of catch up, right? We keep our kind of afflictions sort of in a, I say, not at least not getting stronger, right? And then our wisdom side gets stronger, and then eventually we can use that to abandon the afflictions altogether. Okay, but before that, then these other ones are, I think, within our reach, right? So the object, right? The object refers to the appearance of object conducive to rising affliction. So what do? Then we limit our contact with such objects, right? And sometimes this question comes up a lot, right? Where on the one hand, we are aspiring Mahayana practitioners, right? Wishing to benefit all sentient beings. But it could be the case that there's some beings that we find very difficult to interact with altogether. Either they push our buttons, so to speak, or they might have caused us a lot of harm in the past, right? And then even to interact with them, we can't do so in a sort of balanced way. So if that's the case, right? Although there is a Bodhisattva vow not to abandon any sentient being, we can, even with a mind of bodhicitta, recognize, that it's too difficult for me at this time to engage and interact with this person in a constructive way. Therefore, I am, going to avoid their company until my own practice gets stronger. Yeah, can do. And then, of course, the other kinds of objects, whether they be, alcohol or drugs or whatever might, pornography, whatever might cause those afflictions to arise more, then, we can limit our, or, just stop our consumption of those things, right? Okay, so social context refers to the influence of bad friends and foolish people. Okay, so here, bad friends. I think there's a Kadamba Geshe who said, the bad friends don't necessarily have horns, right? They're not, appearing like the demon or, there's the demon on one shoulder, the angel on the other shoulder, kind of telling you what to do. So it's not necessarily like that, but it says in the text that even, our friends, quote unquote friends, who say, hey, why are you spending so much time meditating, studying those texts? Come out and let's enjoy, I don't know, whatever, a nice Sunday brunch, or I don't know, whatever you think. So even that, kind of a little bit poking holes in your practice, trying to convince you not to practice so much, right? Those are actually a little bit more deceptive, right? Because those are the ones that kind of hard to say no to. And then by not saying no to those, then we'll be like, this one, Arya Sura, right? The one who goes to the land of jewels and, returns empty-handed. So you can imagine, right? You can imagine the trader arrives at the land of jewels, and it says like the whole beach is littered with the jewels, right? But then instead of picking some up, they see the beach volleyball court set up. They see a nice surf break. They see like a shack serving nice pina coladas or whatever, right? Then they sort of lose track of the purpose of why they were there, and then return empty-handed. So it doesn't have to be that they go to the land of jewels and then someone locks them in jail, right? That would be very obvious. Yeah. Number 4, explanation refers to listening to wrong teachings. So here again, we can be very discriminating in what kind of teachings we choose to consume. I suppose also not just teachings, but other forms of entertainment, books, movies, so forth, TV shows, right? We know some sort of stir up the afflictions, right? And so also be discriminating with what we choose to consume with our minds, right? With our Then habituation refers to the process of becoming accustomed to past afflictions. So this is what we were saying. Every time now, every time we're able to apply an antidote to the afflictions and not let them just run rampant, then we are helping to sort of put the brakes on this habituation. And then the attention refers to incorrect attention that projects pleasantness onto what has unpleasant character, conceives impermanent on the thing to be permanent, and the like, right? So those 4 erroneous conceptions. So here, the antidote to this incorrect attention is to do what we're doing and analyze with discriminating wisdom that things are actually impermanent. Painful means suffering in nature. Impure is what we talked about, thinking about the body, and then lacking a self. So these kinds of analyses on the nature of reality can will serve as antidote to the mistaken view of things. Okay, so that's good. We have gone through quite a lot antidotes to the afflictions. And so now I was recognizing and dealing with delusions. So then it had this bullet point, karma. Okay, so we had a whole section on karma in the past, but here in this context, what I think it means is now, when I shared screen, there was a certain number of people on the Zoom call, and then I just stopped the share screen. I see so many more. It's really great. Okay. So now what I think it means, oops, I hit the button, is here now in this section of liberation in the palm of your hand, right? This is the last, and here the part of the quotation I talked about, right? Gods and demigods will become my enemy, right? Then after that, oh, sorry. Let me do like this. Hold on. This is probably more clear. Right. Yeah. These are the outlines from liberation in the palm of your hand, right? So we have how delusions are developed, and there, those four outlines, identifying the delusions, causes of the delusions, so forth, false of the delusions. Yeah. Then after that is this section on karma, right? So then, when this slide says cause of suffering karma, it's actually meaning these outlines, not the outlines that we saw before with the four general characteristics of karma. It's talking about this. Okay, so like we did last week, I thought it was kind of nice actually go through liberation in palm of your hand and give a commentary, right? So let's do that. By the way, some things, the Tibetans, or I don't know, other teachers too, probably, we say some things are better left unsaid, right? Some things are better left unsaid. Okay, but there's also some things that are left said, right? And so I'll say this. I didn't say it last week, but so when I go through this text, and then we read through, and then I say, oh, what about this? What about this? Like kind of questioning, right? This is how you should be reading text too, right? At the end of the paragraph, right? Remember, not like Harry Potter, right? Where you just, okay, page after page, right? Here is a very deliberate reading after every paragraph, then to think, okay, what was he talking about? What does this mean? What's going on here, right? Having a little bit, how do you say it? Yeah, deliberate, a little bit skeptical, a little bit analytic way of reading, okay? So let's do that here. So how karma is accumulated, there are two types of karma, mental karma and intended karma. Oh, so this is just what I was talking about. Remember Gompawa was saying, read Asanga and Vasubandhu's text, Compendium of Metaphysics. This is the text, Ngompa Kuntu. That's the Abhidharma of the Mahayana schools. So what is mental karma? It is a karmic action of the compositional factors aggregate that makes a thought manifest. Its function is to engage the mind in virtuous, the non-virtuous, or the neutral. Okay. In other words, mental karmic action is, for example, the primary mind that provokes us to feel we should speak insulting words, or it is a karmic action of the secondary mind that provokes or encourages us while we are saying these insulting words. Okay, so what do we think about this? All right, I'm not sure what to think about it. Now, let us, remember, not just be satisfied with liberation in the palm of your hand. So we're going to say, let's see what Lama Tsongkhapa says, because probably he's going to quote Asanga. That's my hypothesis. So let's look. Where are we? Okay, sorry. Okay, so here, these outlines, remember, it's 90% same across different Lamrim texts. And probably for these topics, the same quotations will be cited. And here, the hypothesis is right. Compendium of Knowledge, Kuntu by Sangha. So here, let's see. What is intention? It is mental karma that involves the mind. It acts to engage the mind in virtuous, non-virtuous, and ethically neutral activities. Thus, intention is mental karma, a mental process that moves and urges the mind with which it is associated towards objects. Okay? All right. So, what is the difference between these two? I should have these side by side. So here, okay, in this translation of Liberation of Palm Your Hand, it says, a mental karmic action is the primary mind that provokes us to feel we should speak insulting words. Or it is a karmic action of the secondary mind. So remember, those of you who have studied Logic, we have the main minds and secondary mind, mental factor, I think, right? So here in this translation, it seems the mental karmic action can be both the primary mind and the secondary mind, right? This or. I'm not sure about that. Here, mental process, that means mental factor, right? So intention is mental karma, how do you say, mental factor that moves and urges the mind with which it is associated towards objects. Now, my opinion, which I'm not, shy of positing, right? I think this translation leaves something to be desired. I don't think karmic action can be a primary mind. Okay. Anyway, I was looking at the Tibetan. The people here, some Tibetan students. This is why you have to study well. Okay. So then, right, when you see, okay, so for the rest of you, even if you don't know Tibetan, you've read these two, it's a bit different, right? A little bit different. It's the same passage from Compendium of Knowledge. Then here, you all see, right, here, how it seems it can be the primary mind or secondary mind or main mind and mental factor. Mam Sankapa seems it's just, okay. Mental process means Semjung, means the mental factor, right? Right? So when you, and that's another little benefit, I'm kind of advertising benefits of learning Tibetan. But then, right, so one problem is, right here, mental process in this one, here, secondary mind. When you look at the things, it's talking Semchung. So one, by at least, okay, you don't know Tibetan, but you at least know how to read. Okay, you don't know the meaning, but you can read the characters. Then when you see, you can see, Semchung. That's Semchung. That's mental factor. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I'm going a bit, maybe a bit too much. What do you think? Bit too much? All right, I get excited about these things. Okay, this is my, my detective work. I'm thinking, oh, this is interesting, because actually, what we have potentially uncovered is a problematic translation that actually is leading to a not good understanding of this, right? So, in my opinion, a mental karma has to be a secondary mind, has to be a this mental factor of intention, right? Now, how then we should translate that? It, in my opinion, it's when okay. So this mental karma is what provokes the primary mind that we should speak insulting words, right? Its function is to engage the mind in virtuous, non-virtuous, or neutral. Here, yeah, it acts to, right? It kind of leads the mind to engage in virtuous, non-virtuous, and ethical and neutral activities. Okay. Okay. Namjong. You get a little bit too excited about these things, okay? Yeah, okay. So let's go on. Okay, but you with me? At least understand just that, okay? This mental karma is that which kind of urges the mind to act, provokes or encouraging us. And I would not say while we are saying these insulting words, it says probably to, it provokes or encourages us to say these insulting words. Yeah. Okay. Then we have intended karma. This consists of the actions of body and speech motivated by mental karma, right? So we have the mental karma, that's what's motivating us, and then we have these actions that have been motivated, right? So karma, treasury of metaphysics, that's Vasubandhu's Abhidhamma Kosha. Karma, it is mental or created by the mind. Mental karma is mental action. It gives rise to karmic actions of body and speech. Right? See, gives rise. This is nice. See? Gives rise means before, comes before, right? Not here, while we are. While means kind of same time, right? So I think they are causal in relationship, and therefore this is better, gives rise. Okay. So now let's see what Lama Tsongkhapa says. Okay. Or what the translators, how they talk about it here. Okay. This is karma that is intended action. This is the physical and verbal action motivated by the intention. Good. Treasury of knowledge. Karma is both intention and what the intention produces. Intention is mental karma. What it produces are physical and verbal karma. So that's very good. I think this is more clear, right? So the mental karma intention, it's what motivates the action. And then based on the action, we do these activities, either physical or verbal. And so those are the physical and verbal karma. Clear? Thank you. Okay, now, of course, here there's this kind of doubt that comes up, but let's not talk about that right now. Okay, so the delusions give rise to three types of karma: unmeritorious, meritorious, and immutable. So this is important. Let's take them in order. Unmeritorious karma is karma accumulated from yearning for the things of this life and then acting upon this by killing. This type of karma makes one take rebirth in lower realms. So this is what we normally talk about: non-virtue, unmeritorious karma. Meritorious karma is karma accumulated from yearning for sensual happiness in a future life. Okay. So, yeah, sensual happiness, it sounds a bit, yeah. But in any case, basically, we're talking about the three categories of beings, right? And the beings in the initial capable being or small scope, whatever, right? They want to have a good rebirth and the associated happiness in future lives, right? By doing that, it is still a virtuous motivation, right? To take a good rebirth and to have, resources and so forth in future lives. And so that is meritorious karma, okay? But we shouldn't take this as, the definition, right? Because if something is meritorious karma, it's not necessarily yearning for sensual happiness in a future life, right? I think that's, yeah. Why not? Because, the beings of intermediate and the great scope, their primary motivation, is liberation or enlightenment, right? And yeah, this karma makes one take rebirth as a desire realm, God, or human. Okay. Immutable karma is as follows. One repudiates sensual pleasure in future lives, indulges in the happy feelings that come from single point concentration, and thus is reborn as a god in the first three dhyana concentration states. Okay. So this is kind of, I think we touched on this before, but there are the three realms in samsara: the desire realm, form realm, and formless realm, right? And so the first three dhyana concentration states are in the form realm. Okay. So I think we mentioned before, the form realm doesn't have suffering of suffering. Okay. So even non-Buddhists, right? They see the relative disadvantages of the desire realm, right? And having to, eat food, having sickness, having a relatively short life, and having the suffering of suffering, right? And then they see, oh, in the form realm, I don't have to experience suffering of suffering. Huh. Then one wishes to attain rebirth there. So then one engages in these dhyana concentration states. Okay, to attain those, basically you need shine, you need shamatha, you need single point of concentration for sure. Then after that, you engage in what is called the Shi Rak Nampa Chengi Lo. Okay, Shi is peace, Rak is gross. So differentiating the gross means the desire realm and the relatively peaceful state of the form realm. By doing that, you come to suppress the desire realm afflictions. Okay, because what you're doing, you are constantly engaging in the relative comparison, meditating on all the faults of the desire realm and the relative advantages of form realm, then by doing, in such a manner, one comes to have a sense of renunciation, not wanting to experience these desire realm drawbacks or sufferings. Okay? All right. Then one can even repudiate the happy feelings that develop from single point of concentration, and so yearning for feelings of equanimity accumulate karma that acts as a cause to be reborn in the fourth dhyana concentration state or higher. All right, so the form realm has 4 concentration states. Higher than that is the formless realm. Okay, so in the first 3 concentrations of the form realm, there's no suffering of suffering, but there is suffering of change. Means there's contaminated happy feelings. Okay, but these happy feelings, they're still contaminated and they disturb the mind. Right? So yearning for feelings of equanimity, right, which is actually for these yogis, right, it's more peaceful, right? So they don't want to even experience contaminated sensual pleasure. They want to have just a feeling of equanimity. So then they engage in a similar kind of meditation on the peaceful and gross, comparing the formless realm to the form realm, and they see that the formless realm is even more peaceful, right? There's no kind of gross physical body, it's a lot lighter kind of state to be in, and thus they will get reborn in such a formless state. Okay, all right. So why is that immutable? It's immutable because once you have accumulated the causes to be reborn in let's say the formless realm, that can only be sort of experienced in the formless realm, right? Oh, okay, so here, both meritorious and unmeritorious karma throw one into rebirth in the desire realm. Their results are mutable. Okay, so maybe some mutable means able to change, immutable cannot change. Okay, so here, Wonka Rinpoche's explanation, here he says, for example, one may have already achieved the bardo state of being on the way to the hell, but through the power of one's guru, of rituals, of the secret tantra, and so on, one's bardo state can be changed, so one is able to receive rebirth in the upper realms. So Drum Rinpoche, that means Drum Tumpa, he says, if all the people of Rading with lay vows were to hold their property in common, it would be particularly helpful in the creation of root merits after one of their deaths. So this is something a little bit important. Okay, so all right. So sometimes a question can kind of come up, right, in relation to people who have died. What can we do for them, right? What can we do for them? And even in the kind of traditional texts, you'll see there's one story when, in the Buddhist time, someone came. Okay, I'm going to stop share. I'm telling a story. So once in the Buddhist time, there's someone whose relative had died, and they come to the Buddha very distraught, very distressed, and say, "Oh, my mother, my father has died. What can we do?" And the Buddha said, "Okay, get some earthen pots, clay pots, fill them with rocks, seal the top, okay, throw them in the river. Okay? Then after you throw them in the river, pray that they rise to the surface." Okay? You understand? You think it's possible? No. No. So, what is this showing? I mean, as it says in the, Sangata Sutra, that except for the fruition of the virtue that we've accumulated, nothing else can be our protector, right? Okay, so on one level, right, we have all this talk. Okay, we have to be our own refuge. We can't experience the ripening effect of karma we haven't created. And the flip side of that, everything we experience is the ripening effect of karma we have created. So, of course, if it were that easy, that just by some mere performing of rituals or prayers, that we would be liberated. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are praying for us all the time. They're praying for all sentient beings. So if you're a sentient being, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are praying for you. You have no idea. Yet, still not liberated, still on the very precipice of getting reborn in the lower realms again. A bit tough, huh? Okay, so that's on one side. On the other side, we have all of these, for the first 49 days after one is reborn, we do, recite King of Prayers, do all these pujas, this, that. We also see, the poa, right? Transference of consciousness, prayers and pujas being done by lamas. So what do you think? Is this, the clay pot full of rocks, and we're now we're using, the Vajrayana prayers. Oh, they can make the pot come to the surface, but the regular prayers, sutra prayers, they can't. Something to think about. Okay. Now, why was I talking about this in relation here? Okay. What it does say in the text is for prayers to have efficacy, for them to work, there's three things. One is the teachers praying for their students, right? It has to be a strong karmic link, right? So the teachers and students, and that works both ways. Then the family members, same blood. If they do, prayers to each other, that also has, strong potential to, have an effect. And then the third is what is being talked about here. People with property in common. Okay, so what does this mean here, right? So Rajang is a town in Tibet. So then, if they have the property in common, okay, so let's say everyone here on this call, right? Whatever, 12 people, right? If we all put $100 into an account, right? Then we're all shared owners of that property, right? Okay, so then when one of us dies, if from that account, virtue is created, if we perform charity from that, right? Then I've died, but I've sort of I have part ownership in that account, which then is being used for virtue. So some of the root merits from that then accrues to me, right? It's as if, when we make investments in a company, right? We're early investors, angel investors, whatever, right? Then later, that company goes on to, do great things. We're part owners. And so we participate in the upside of that. So that's why Jerome Tumba is saying it would be particularly helpful in the creation of root merits after they died. So in other words, because these lay people would all have the same property, the roots of the merits created in relation to that property would be especially beneficial to anyone of their dead colleagues still in the bardo. So that can help. And similarly, this might happen, right? A parent or a loved one, they pass away, okay? And then, you might have a whole closet of their clothing. And so also to engage in acts of charity of that, it can benefit them very much. Okay. All right. So just continuing on with this, the throwing karma to be reborn in the higher realms is as follows. This is why. Suppose one has already accumulated karma to be reborn in the first dhyana concentration state. The karma will not change instead into karma to be born in the second concentration state or whatever. That is why such karma is called immutable. Okay. Virtuous karma is meant to be reborn in the desire realm. Karma to be born higher. What's higher than the desire realm? Form and formless realm. It is immutable. This karma is immutable because it will only ripen in these higher levels. So my opinion, where is this? Okay, you see, now that we're looking at Lamun Chenmo and right, invariable karma, that's what is also called immutable karma. Okay. Invariable karma is contaminated virtuous karma in the minds of beings of the form and formless realm. And here we have this. Merit is the virtuous karma of the desire realm. Invariable karma produces the higher deities realms. So here, Sankapa asks, why is it called invariable karma? In the desire realm, karma that should bear fruit while you are a deity may instead bear fruit while you are a human, an animal, or a hungry ghost. Thus, its effect is variable. So this is a bit different sense of what Pavon Rinpoche is talking about in Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. Right? Here, mutable, he's saying, oh, one can have these rituals performed, and then you're going to be reborn in the hells, but instead you're reborn in a higher rebirth in the upper realms because of these rituals. Therefore, it is mutable. Right? Here in Lam Sankava, he's saying, in the desire realm, right? Desire realm has still, animals, hungry ghosts, humans, and there are desire realm deities, right? So that virtuous karma can instead bear fruit while you are in other sort of types of rebirth within the desire realm. Therefore, it's called well, this is the flip side, right? Variable karma, right? You understand the difference? So what would that mean? So here, as an example, right? If you have accumulated virtuous karma, that if you were born as a desire realm deity, you would have, you know, great riches and so forth. Well, instead, you're reborn as an animal. Well, you could still get, you know, you know, nice food, nice house, right? Okay. Back to liberation of the palm of your hand. All right. Any karma not accumulated in conjunction with any of the three fundamentals of the path will only be the cause for samsara. Three fundamentals of the path: liberation, bodhicitta, and view of emptiness, the right view. Any karma created when you're motivated to renounce the three realms of samsara could only become the cause for your liberation. When you give up this life with the thought that you will practice dharma, but do not do this in conjunction with renunciation and so on, you may stay and meditate on mental quiescence in some hermitage. But if you're lucky, you'll only receive the cause to be reborn in the formless realms or the form realm dhyana concentration states. Why is that? So these are what we're talking about, how the beings get reborn in the form and formless realms. They see, they meditate only on the faults of desire realm, but they don't have the full-fledged renunciation of all of samsara, right? So they do give up this life, they do practice dharma, but without the thought of renunciation of all of samsara. So without the full-fledged renunciation, the thought to be free from all of samsara, yeah, you can get a good rebirth. And these rebirths in the formless realm and the form realm are good rebirths, right? They don't have suffering of suffering, right? It's good. Good relative to a desire realm rebirth, but you know, as they say, only nirvana is peace, right? So they're still born in samsara. So that is why, if you want to practice dharma, it is vital to seek some totally unmistaken instruction. The unmistaken instruction here is what we're saying again and again. If you want to, you know, achieve liberation from samsara, you need to develop the wish to be free from samsara. Therefore, you need to view all of the faults of samsara and seek to be free of all of that. Not just some partial, you know, oh, suffering is suffering. Oh, that's so bad. I don't want to, you know, suffer anymore. In that kind of minor, incomplete sense. Okay. So, oh, wow. Even with all those stories and my blabbering, we're still pretty good on time. It's amazing. So I thought, you know, even though even though where are you? Okay. Even though in this list, right, we're now talking about karma. Okay. I think we've talked about many times the definitions and difference between nirvana and enlightenment. Okay. So here, Wheel of Life 12 links. Oops, no. Where are we? Okay, here we go. Right. So we just talked about how karma is accumulated, mental karma, intended karma. Okay. So the 12 links is this. It's in this one, the way one is conceived and reborn. Okay. But between that, there are these two little, what happens at death and the way one achieves the bardo. So although it's not explicit in the list of the topics we should cover, we have some extra time. We are, insatiable in our desire to acquire knowledge. And therefore, let's just go through these last two sections. Okay, it says 3 sections, but I said the third one is where it talks about the 12 links, and we'll do that next week. So then, what happens at death? Your lifespan may run out, your merit may run out. You have not rid yourselves of danger. The Sutra on factors contributing to death mention 9 such factors for death. These and others can kill you. Okay. Now, this is important. Your dying thoughts activate karma that will throw you into the next rebirth after that death. The activators of this karma are craving and clinging. So these we'll see in the 12 links of interdependent origination. Okay. And this is what happens. You might feel, I'm going to be separated from this body, right, as you die. And then you cling on to your present body. Craving includes things like desiring heat when you're about to be reborn in the high hells. The object of this triggering process is your most powerful karma, be it black or white. If your black and white karma are equal, then the triggering object is whichever of these 2 types is more familiar. If the 2 types are still equal, then whichever type of karma was carried out first will be triggered. The time when this triggering takes place is while the mind is still active and still has the coarse form of recognition, either a virtuous or non-virtuous phenomena, that is faith, compassion, attachment, anger, etc. And you can still recall such things by yourself or can be reminded of them by other people. Okay. So this is why when you are with someone who's about to die, or when you are about to die, it's very important to try to remind yourself or bring up an attitude of virtue, because this is what is going to activate a seed of a previously accumulated virtue, which then will propel one into a good rebirth. Okay. Then when this coarse recognition ceases, and while your dying thoughts are subtle, your thoughts are neutral, and you're unable to remember any virtue or non-virtue. Okay. So, we have recognition, right? So we have coarse recognition or subtle recognition, right? And the coarse recognition happens, it gets absorbed, means it ceases to function as we go through the dying process. So before that happens, then it's essential that these virtuous thoughts are recalled and brought to mind. So if your dying thoughts are faith and so on, your virtue will be activated. It is therefore vital to pray with virtuous thoughts when you're dying. When your dying thoughts are on the point of being activated. You could be a Dharma practitioner who continually creates virtue, but if you get angry, etc., when you're dying, you will activate non-virtuous dying thoughts and go to the lower realms owing to the ripening effect of past non-virtues. And the same principles would apply to a sinner who can continually sins. At this point, one will be going to either the upper or the lower realms. If one is going to the upper realms, one's body heat dissipates from the lower parts of the body and collects into the heart. If one is going to the lower realms, the opposite happens. Heat dissipates from the upper reaches of the body and collects in the lower. Also, you can know which of these two will happen by such signs as the degree of discomfort the person experiences during his fatal illness. Discomfort during the illness refers to when some major part of the body fails. Some people hallucinate when they die. For example, they may imagine being squashed under bricks of tea or by people. So this is referring to a story, which I think is here in the Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand, where there was the manager of the monastery, right, who, then is responsible for taking in the donations of the lay people. And then, it is said that the one monastery manager, he sort of misappropriated the tea that was offered, to the monastery, and instead either used it for himself or maybe even sold them for profit on the side. And then, due to the negative karma of this, then he had the vision of being squashed under bricks of tea during his dying time. Oh, yes. Oh, I see. My bad. It wasn't a monastery steward. It was a steward of the central government. So he had stolen tea, and then when he died, he had hallucinations. Yeah. And then an official from Sang province died. He said, "I'm being crushed by many people." And then he left that life in a state of terror and so on. This also happens to people who perform virtuous actions. Once a beggar who lived by the side of the road had visions of a palace and white light rays when he died. Yeah. Okay. Many such stories like this. Yeah. One story that's nice that we can insert at this point also. So I think it was Geshe Potala. There's a monkey. Do you know Tushita has many monkeys? The monkey right outside my window. So hopefully getting some imprints of Dharma. Omani Padme Hum. Okay. So Geshe Potala, I believe, then when he was about to die, his attendants, his students came around him, and he was kind of meditating, praying, and then he had this visage of being quite disappointed. Then his students asked him, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "Oh, my prayers aren't going to come to fruition." The students got very distraught. So he asked him, "Oh, what's going on?" And then he said, "Oh, I've been praying to be reborn in the hells to benefit sentient beings, and yet I'm getting visions of the Pure Land." So, with this mind of bodhicitta and great compassion, wishing to benefit sentient beings, then even willing, and praying, actively praying to be reborn in the hells for them, right? But then, due to the power of this great compassion, that is actually what then activated the virtuous karma to be reborn in the Pure Lands, right? So for many of us, or I don't know, hopefully some of us, that might be our goal, right? To be reborn in the Pure Land. And if we had, the vision of the, as it says in the King of Prayers, at the time of my death, or no, in the Lama Tsongkhapa's prayer to be reborn in Amitabha Buddha Pure Land, then it says, at the time of my death, may I be, may the Amitabha, along with the 8 great bodhisattvas, appear, and may they show me the exact way to travel to the Pure Lands, right? At that time, may a great sense of joy and faith arise in me, Lama Tsongkhapa actually was told by Manjushri everything to include in that prayer, right? To be born in Amitabha Buddha Pure Land. Okay, so even to do that, amazing, right? Okay, then Geshe Potowa, right? So imagine, at the time of death, you see Amitabha, Buddha, all the other bodhisattvas, you'd be so happy, right? Potowa. Oh my gosh, Geshe Potowa is like, oh, like disappointed. His prayers aren't being fulfilled. Right? Amazing. So you see, we're saying we use the Dharma like a mirror, right? Use the Dharma like a mirror, It's kind of, in other words, kind of use it as a benchmark, right? We see these stories of the great masters, how they're thinking, what they're doing, and then we look. So it shouldn't be then, oh, it's a cause of then beating ourselves up, but rather, it can be inspiration, right? So there are beings like this. They, just like us, had thoughts of, clinging to mere happiness of his life, thoughts clinging to one's own purpose, all that. And then through a process of transformation, then come to, cherish sentient beings more than oneself, come to even, seek rebirth in the lower realms, in the hell realms to benefit sentient beings. It's possible, it happens. Through training, we now have the same access to the mind training methods that they use, that they employed. Right? So what is lacking? We just have to do it, right? And we'll get the same results. So the way one achieves the bardo, like the swinging of arms of a balance. Right? You get this? The old scales, like the scales of justice, right? Then you put, a weight on this, automatically the other one goes up, right? Simultaneous. This is a very common analogy given for things that happen simultaneously. Okay, so your present incarnation, and simultaneously with the adoption of the physical form of the preliminary incarnation, this refers to the phantom. That means the kind of bardo being, right? That resembles the aggregates of your next rebirth. The next rebirth or incarnation, wherever it may be, is preceded by this phantom. Phantom, let's say bardo being. Only phantom I know is the Phantom of the Opera, right? Then some people claim that the dead live in the bardo with the appearances and costumes they had when they were alive, and that there are ways of sending messages to them. This is a fallacy. It is possible there have been 1 or 2 such sightings, but they are not the dead person. They are said to be some creature taking the form of the dead person, done to deceive ordinary worldlings. Okay. So bardo beings have all their faculties. They are clairvoyant and can perform paranormal acts. nothing except for sacred reliques, that means stupas, or their birth sites bars their way. Okay. What does that mean? That means normally Bardo beings, they can go through walls. They have a subtle form body that is not, impeded by the normal walls that we are, right? But so they can go through normal walls, but they can't go through stupas. I think this is especially referring to the Bodh Gaya stupa. Okay, that is called, the Vajra seat, right? Dorje Den in Tibetan. I've seen it described that Bardo beings cannot go, through that stupa at Bodh Gaya, but it could also be, regular stupas as well. Not sure. Anyway, the Bardo beings who are to be born in hell are the color of burnt logs. Those who are born as hungry ghosts are watery color. Those who are about to become animal or smoke colored. Those who are about to become humans or gods are the color of fine gold. Those who are about to become former gods are a white color in the Bardo, and there's no Bardo for beings taking a rebirth in the formless realm. The Bardo in carnation state appears as black night to the more virtuous. To the virtuous, the state appears as a night punctuated by white strips of cloth or lit by moonbeams. Many claims have been made about the lifespans of Bardo beings, usually said to be 7 days, days of the same duration as those in the next life. After these 7 days, Bardo beings undergo a small death. They can have up to 7 such small deaths before they find a birth site. Okay, so there we go. Why then are the prayers said for 49 days? Because, okay, one dies, then one takes rebirth in a Bardo state. That Bardo state takes 7 days. Then after 7 days, they have another, that's what they call small death, means they take another kind of rebirth within the Bardo. And then they can have 7 such, means 7 times 7, 49. And then they take their final rebirth. So that's why best to do the prayers for the 7 weeks, but especially if that can't be done, then let's say your loved one has been, has passed away on a Thursday, then they'll do the pujas every Thursday, because what will happen, and especially if we're doing what we said, using their property, accumulating virtue, and so forth, you can kind of change their karmic mix in the intervening 7 weeks, and then before they have one of these mini deaths within the Bardo. Let's say they're first going to be reborn as an animal. You collect some virtue, that then they can get reborn as a human. Okay, then last thing, way one is conceived and reborn. So take a case of being reborn from a womb. Conception occurs within the sperm and blood of the parents. The Bardo being sees the father and mother sleeping together. Its anger and attachment nauseate it. It only sees the sex organs of the parents. Anger kills it, and it is conceived in the next incarnation. Okay, so this is the thinking about source of suffering, following the Lamsang right? And then he says he's now going to discuss the 12 interdependent links. Okay. So we'll talk about that next week. Let's pause now for questions. I see Anne has raised her hand. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Venerable. I was wondering about the 7-day prayers. after a person's passed, a teacher once told me it's also really good, especially the 21st or 28th day. And I was just wondering if you've heard this and which it was, because I couldn't remember 21st or 28th.
So I have not heard that. I have heard, every 7. Okay, just as I mentioned, every day for 49 days is best. If not, then every 7. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm. Okay, Shanti, yes.
So, Venerable, in the last class, you discussed wrong attention. I think it's the 6 causes of afflictions. So is this the same as inappropriate attention, which arises like is described in Nagarjuna's, the way in which the afflictions form?
I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to check what is being translated in the context of Nagarjuna. But can we say maybe / probably? Right?
Thank you, Venerable.
Yeah. No, okay. So this is a thing too, right? We have a phenomena, right? And then we label it something, right? So here, let me go back to the screen share. Hello. No. Okay. So this is in Asanga's Bodhisattva levels. This is what you're talking about, right? Attention refers to incorrect attention that projects pleasantness onto what has an unpleasant character, conceives an impermanent thing to be permanent, and the like. So this is talking about these 4 distortions of the First Noble Truth of suffering. Okay? So now, whatever the translator uses to translate this, okay? Here, attention. Now let me see if I can quickly find this in Liberation, the palm of your hand, right? Because it'll talk about these same 6 causes of the afflictions. I'm pretty sure. Okay. So here, this translator, unrealistic thinking. So now, unrealistic thinking involves the constant exaggerations that one makes concerning the objects of one attachment, hostility, and so forth. Regarding the objects of one attachment, clothing, for example, one thinks it has fine colors, beautiful cut, lovely belt, and so on, right? Regarding the object of one hostility, an enemy for existence, one thinks they did me this and this harm, afterwards they did that to me. One thinks over and over again about these pleasant or unpleasant objects. Okay, so now, what do we see? Lamrim Chenmo is talking in particular about the 4 distortions. Here, it is not necessarily that, right? Just thinking, oh, they did this harm to me. They did that harm to me. That could even be true, right? But by kind of thinking about that over and over again, then it causes the affliction to arise more and more. This is what we were talking about with the habituating ourselves, doing an analytic meditation on anger, thinking again and again, he did that harm, right? Okay, so now we know, we've done our research. All right, this 6th cause of the afflictions, unrealistic or attention, liberation of the palm of your hand seems to be saying like this. Lamrim Chenmo seems to be saying like that. now, Shanti, you're asking me, how does this compare to Nagarjuna? Inappropriate attention. So, I'm sorry, I'm very, lazy and ignorant. That passage from Nagarjuna, I don't have at my fingertips or in my memory banks. But you who do, then you see, okay, what is Nagarjuna talking about? Forget about the words. It could be attention, right? Lamrim Chenmo says attention. Here, it's not even attention, unrealistic thinking, okay? So then what is Nagarjuna talking about? Is he talking about this, the four distortions? Or is he talking about more like this? Or what is he talking about? And then when you know that, you can tell me the difference between these two contexts. Hello. Where'd you go? Yes? Yeah. So anyway, okay, there's more questions. I won't, I'll leave it at that. Mariella.
So with the property in common benefit that moves that on, does that have to be entered into cognizant of the possible benefits? So, or can it be just something that people who have property in common do? Does it have to be intention? Does there have to be intention there? I'm asking because my cat died last week. And I know. She was 21 years old, and immediately we donated all of her things, her foods, all of these things of hers right away to benefit the litter, the kitties at the shelter. So did that have the positive effect of just benefiting kitties because they have food, or does it have the augmented positive effect of helping her along in the bardo?
That's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Because, sorry, I'm laughing because, we're talking about monkeys, right? So I'm wondering, the first thing that comes to mind is, can animals own property? Okay, so it seems Nagas can, right? Nagas for sure can. They're included in the animal realm, but they're quite intelligent. Okay. Now, other types of animals, I was laughing because just a couple of days ago, I had a nice bag of pistachios, actually from California. Some California pistachios. I'm out here in Tushita on the other side at a table eating the pistachios. A monkey comes up, kind of, stands up like, on the table or, grabs the bag of pistachios and just looks at me. Now, did the monkey have a discrimination that those pistachios belonged to this hairless monkey, and now they thought it's mine? Okay, I don't know. So normally in the Vinaya text, when it talks about stealing, and there's a lot of stuff about property and misappropriating property, so forth. One has to have the discrimination that this is mine, right? So I wonder, those cat food, let's say, the ones that's in the cabinet, right, or in the pantry, whatever. Maybe the cat didn't know about it, right? Right. Now you open up a pack, you put it in the bowl. Nice. And it might not even be thinking it's my food. It might just be thinking there's some food there. It looks tasty. I'll eat it. Right. I don't know. What do you think? My food?
I think she thinks my food. So I put the food that, because she knows the difference, or she knew the difference between her food and dog's food. And we put that food out on the railing for the crows to take. So maybe there's a little bit of benefit.
Well, but the food that you hadn't given to her yet, that was in the pantry. You know, does she come to know about it?
Maybe not. Just the food in the bowl then. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm see, you don't see this. Asanga, Vasubandhu, Lamas and Kava, they're not talking about these things. I haven't seen.
Yeah. Thank
Right?
you.
So this is the first time we use reasoning, right? No, really. We see whatever there is in the text and then we use reasoning. So this is very good kind of case study. I appreciate the question. So then when I think about it, I think about, okay, property. And then Vinay talks about having discrimination. This is mine. So then we ask, okay, we use that same principle. What does the cat think is mine, not mine, right? What do animals think mine, not mine? And use that. Now, okay, it's very good to make charity, but you know, for the particular animal, the best thing you can do is while they were still alive, recite mantras, you know, take them on circumambulation, you know, this kind of stuff. When they've passed away, then to recite mantras, blow on the body, or you know, do the you know, there's certain you know, mantras, right? There's some, you know, mantras that you can then place on the skin, this kind of thing. This I think you all know. But your other question, when it comes to humans, right? You could have a business partner, right? They're not Buddhist, they don't care, but you have a business together. Then those funds in common, they don't have to have an intention to perform virtue. If you do that on their behalf, they will accrue virtue because, you know, that is their property in the notable sense, right? So that doesn't have to have intention, but it has to have ownership. Okay.
But on that point, can't you also think of dedicating the merit? So you can, there's the food, you know that there's hungry beings in other places or something like that. You can dedicate the merit to the cat or to what remains of the cat, wherever the cat is. So there is that aspect of it too.
For sure,
and lost.
For sure, and that's a very, very good point, Venerable Pamo, right? So yes, we should do that. We can, you know, dedicate the merit, but the question was, you know, the kind of fine point of, you know, what Drumtumpa was saying with the shared property, you know, the shared property, you know, benefit, and in my opinion, yeah, it's a little bit difficult if that person doesn't have the recognition that it's their property. But of course, there's many ways we can benefit them, and we should. Okay, so I think we're out of time. So let's dedicate. Yeah. Where are we? So we'll dedicate here. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and may it especially cause the teaching of perfect pure Losam Drakpa, its teachings to shine forever. And we also have a little dedication here on the chat. So let's also dedicate it for Charlotte Kirkpatrick. That's the name of the cat. Anyway, so for Charlotte Kirkpatrick, all the other beings in the Bardo, may they be born in the pure realm where they can achieve enlightenment, or at the very least attain a perfect human rebirth, meet with the Mahayana Dharma and Mahayana teachings, and practice well, developing all the realizations, particularly bodhicitta, realization of emptiness, and be enlightened in their very next lifetime. Okay. So thank you very much. And we'll see you next week. It'll be our last lecture. Then we'll have a couple of practice sessions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Namaste.
Venerable Namjang, Maria Leonard. Thanks, everyone.